So you will have to make sure that your culture reaches people in stories that talk to them personally. And what do I mean by that? Maybe 15 years ago, if you were told that there is this holy site, let's say a Hindu kshetra, and something is happening there, you would be naturally animated and moved to do something about it. But today, the default mode is, okay, what is in my experience? Because there is, and we have to empathize with it. It's not coming from a position of judgment. It is the problem that I see. I have a daughter. I see that younger generation. They are caught between what the culture is supplying them and what the tradition is telling them as good. There is this dichotomy. Right? So they will care for it if they have a natural and a personal association with that place. So for example, if I am going through a personal situation in my life, whether it is joy, anxiety, breakup, or a new job, whatever it is, and if that story that is happening in my mind is linked to a metaphor from my culture, and let's say that culture is anchored in a place, then I will care about it. Without that, I will not. Today, that metaphor, the analogy, the collateral, the aesthetic imagery around it, the neural pathway itself is framed by what people are consuming from other cultures. Right? So my daughter is more likely to feel for Harry Potter than she is likely to feel for Rama in that sense. Right? So how do you do this? It's not just about content production, it's also about design, it's also about thinking about this things in a different way. Firstly, respecting that this is the truth and making sure that you try and tell stories in a personable manner that people resonate with. That's the first thing that we do. We said we need to do this. When I took this idea, this is the demand generation, as I call it. When people become personally affiliated to your cultural stories, metaphors, and anchors, then they will care about it more. Our elasticity increases. Right? So to do that, you write, you produce videos, you do content, but content in a aesthetic manner, in a creative way, in mediums that people are already using, and respecting, like I said, the choice that they make. Autonomy, relatedness, and purpose. These are the fundamental principles of designing immersive experiences. And you have to, through your words, your actions, your creative content, deliver autonomy to people. Right? So that's one commitment that we have as Brhat. But when I took this idea to people, they said, this is great, you should, and advisors who've always been very, very supportive. So this is great, but do not lose sight of the policy dimension, because unless all of these things get instituted or institutionalized, you are unlikely to get traction. You might get some people that you would touch, but unless your education represents this, unless your pop culture represents this, unless your political systems represent this, unless your economic thought centers around this, this will not endure. It is a battle of attrition as it is. Right? So think about what you were doing in education and make sure that you don't give it up. That's an advice that I got. I respected that. Anyways, that is a supply. So this demand generation through cultural storytelling has to be met with supply of policy and investor ecosystem and all of those things. So that's the second part of the work that we do, which is the policy research in two areas. One is education, very focused on how do you deepen Indian knowledge systems in academia and in any other space where education is happening. Right? So we partner with universities, we partner with online content providers, we partner with creators who are trying to get into education, edtech companies, we consult for them to produce pedagogical, curriculum-based pedagogical research, curriculum support, and also to train teachers and build competencies. Right? In actually making sure that this movement that we have of awareness turns into something more enduring. That's the idea. These two things were there, but our gurus also advised us that you had taken up a responsibility to teach, and that is also your pravriti, your own swabhava is that have some element of teaching in whatever you do next. And that's the idea of leadership development, civilizational leadership development, where we train people on what it takes to actually have civilizational endurance.